Murtaza, how are you feeling about AI in your world?
Oh, there are so many things that AI is doing for us. It's helping us. It's overwhelming us. It's stressing us out. Um, it's making people ask a lot of questions. And it's one of those things that the more deeper you get into the rabbit hole, a lot of people tend to come out of it very scared. Um, but I'm very optimistic about it. How about you?
I'm also feeling optimistic about it. I feel like you and I have a pretty similar feeling towards AI. And I personally have used it for a lot of things, and I think it's very helpful. But I have also seen the perspective that it can be overwhelming. But I think that this is something we can dive into a little bit more today.
All right, let's dig in. Welcome to Bantercast.
Welcome to Bantercast.
So, Savannah, are you concerned that AI is going to take your job?
No. And I've actually seen people talk about this on LinkedIn. I've seen the conversations arise of the fear that AI is going to take over and take away the sales jobs. But I am not afraid of that at all, because although AI can help with things like automation and, lead targeting and research for your accounts and a lot of things that AI can do super quickly that a human can't, there is one aspect of my job and selling, which is that human touch that AI will never be able to match. And ultimately, when people say people buy from people, I truly believe that. And they are not buying because you did more research than the last person. They're probably buying from you product if they really like your product, and also from you. And if it's an AI bot, I don't think it can replace that human touch that humans have when they're trying to sell. But
You're
you
saying
asked,
there's a trust factor, right? There, people have a trust in another living, breathing individual, um, and that's why in sales that part cannot be replicated by AI.
exactly. And actually, the other day, this is a different example, but I was calling a restaurant to make a reservation, and it was an AI bot. And it was the first time I had ever experienced this. And the AI bot said, if you're looking to make a reservation, go online or, press 3. And I pressed 3, and it was another AI bot. And I got so frustrated, and I hung up the phone, and I decided to make a reservation somewhere else, because in my mind, I was like, this is so inefficient, and I couldn't do it online, and I really wanted to speak to a human, and that was not an option. And it was one of the first times recently where I was like, wow, I would so much rather speak to a human than an AI bot. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who feels that way, which is why I feel safe in the aspect of a sales job is not going to be taken over by an AI bot. But I'd be curious to know if you think I should be scared of that.
Hmm. I think nobody should be scared of AI, but I think everybody needs to figure out how to change the way they work, because AI is going to make that change happen, right?
Yeah.
Um, I I don't know if did we ever talk about that Mad Men example I give sometimes?
No.
No? All right. So I have this weird habit that our audience and you might pick up on, which is I tend to go back in history quite a bit and talk about old times, even though I'm not that old. But one of the famous shows from, I would say, 15 years ago was Mad Men. If you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend go watch it. It's a heck of a show. It's kind of like when the golden age of TV actually started. Mad Men came out. It was called Mad Men because it was talking about the advertising industry on Madison Avenue in New York. So Mad Men, people who
Okay.
used to run in the advertising industry. Um, and there's one tiny little thing over there that made me think about the parallels between how that industry evolved to how we're evolving now. In that show, which is a fair reflection of those times in the 60s and 70s, you'd see these pools of secretarial staff at an office, and who were just who were called steno, which was part of their job was that they were typing all the time, right? So there'd be a big hall where there'd be 20 people sitting and we'll be typing all the time. And somebody would be like, people would dictate what they want on a letter, and that dictation would go over to a steno who would then type it out and all that stuff. And just plain old typing, which we do on a day-to-day basis now, was a career, was a profession in those days. What changed it was this piece of technology that came out, which was called word processors, which is Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word is the latest evolution of that. But when those tools started coming in the hands of the people are like, why am I making this so inefficient, to your earlier point, where I am dictating something and that dictation is going to a second person who is going to type it out and then send it over to me. And then I'm going to look at it. I'm going to point out 5 different errors, and then they're going to fix it. And then 3 days later, I'm going to get that document that I wanted like three days ago, right? That's how the industry changed. And I see you shaking your head for all the right reasons, because that's exactly how we feel.
That stresses me out thinking about that process. I'm like,
Yeah.
that would take so long. It's so inefficient, but it's a reality.
So for the people from the 20s and 30s, just having that ability to have someone type out all these documents and letters and all that was an uplift, was a gain. And then, word processing was a gain. For us, AI is that shift. And I think this is the first time that white collar jobs are actually having to tool themselves. And people would say, office tools like Excel and all those were tools. Yeah, right. But they weren't tool in the way AI is going to become a tool, because AI is the way you handle AI and the way you build your skill set with AI, it's going to be a differentiator. It's almost going to be almost like a craft, because the way you prompt an AI, the way you get an AI to work for you, no two people can get the same output from an AI. It's all about how you're communicating, right? So the way you get output from, say, a Chat GPT or a Claude versus the way I get output from a Chat GPT or Claude could be different, right? So bottom line, shouldn't be afraid. No need to fear AI. Lean into it, and lean into it by understanding how you can change the way you work. I'm going to give one example, really good one. There's a lady that I follow. Her name is Lisa Adams. She talks a lot of sense about the evolution of AI from a GTM and marketing specific perspective. One of the things she was talking about recently, she gave an example of a person who was a marketing leader and whose job was about executing campaigns. And that individual, with the power of AI, they actually changed their job completely, because they started using AI in ways that what they would do on a day-to-day basis, they started having AI do that, and they became the orchestrator of AI. And their job changed from just being a marketing manager who was doing certain things to be a leader for growth and orchestration of AI and adoption in market. So that's a great example of how you need to lean into AI and how you need to figure out how to work with AI to make, to kind of get that step change function in your in your day-to-day.
Yeah, I'm seeing that too internally right now at my job. We recently had this built out where when a meeting is booked, whether that's from an SDR or an AE, and that meeting notification comes in, AI on the back end builds out a summary of the account, the conversation that was had, and basically every piece of information that one would need to know in preparation for the call. And I still am actively taking notes and sharing these notes, and that does take time. And now with this new AI feature, it is cutting the time down by half and amplifying the amount of research being done. It's doing so much more research and uncovering so much more information than I'll ever be able to find. So it is something that if you lean into, it can be very valuable and save you a lot of time.
So how do you think? So that's a really good use case. But what do you think is going to be the big disruption? Because there's already people out there who are like, we've gotten rid of our entire SDR team, and then they come back and say, we made a mistake like 8 months later. Maybe not to say we made a mistake, but it didn't turn out the way they intended. But what do you think is going to be that disruptive moment where people in sales functions recognize that, all right, AI is here, it's going to stay, but we wanted to do these things so that we can do other things. So what is that moment, and what are those things that as a frontline salesperson would be extremely valuable to you?
Well, in terms of on a day to day,
Yeah.
I've already noticed that the most valuable thing that AI can do for a sales rep is doing that like faster prospect research, uncovering information about the account, basically scrubbing the account, which even
Mm-hmm.
2 years ago when I first started was a manual task. You would open the account, you would go to their website, do research. Are they hiring? Are they not? And now with basically the click of a button, you can have more information than you could ever imagine, which to me then leaves me extra time for personalization. And that is that human aspect that really will seal the deal in sales and or stand out amongst a crowded inbox of AI generated emails. And I think that if SDR teams are replaced completely by AI, it could be challenging because I don't think AI understands the specific approaches that an SDR needs to have. For example, we learned there's a certain amount of touches to eventually get the prospect's attention. There's a certain amount of phone call steps or email steps. And I think that that's something that is learned over time. And if AI takes over the SDR team, for example, I think that it's going to get lost in the noise because those
Mm-hmm.
emails are going to just sound so generated. Even though they can be valuable, I think that, yeah, it's a hard thing.
What you're saying is that you as a frontline salesperson at the end of the day have an intuition about what to do next. And AI can, if I understood you correctly, AI can do the regular step-by-step stuff, but it doesn't have the intuition to handle exceptions.
Yeah, that's exact. I couldn't find the words. You took them out of my mouth. Exactly. Yeah. So when, in terms of just a process of here's the first email, the second email, the third email, this is how you open a conversation. Here's how you close it. I think AI does a great job at that. And the messaging is right. And again, it can do research that we can't, or that we can, but will take
Forever.
much more time to do. But in terms of those niche use cases or certain replies or objections, and I'm sure you could, to be honest, you probably can train your AI bot to be able to objection handle.
Yep.
And you can prompt it with the different objections that the prospect might return with. But just right off the bat, it doesn't have the intuition for the unknown.
Right.
So I'm I'm curious. You're asking me all these questions, but in terms of your day to day, what parts of AI are you the most excited about that's going to make your life easier? And I know you're using it all the time, but I'd be curious to know what you're the most excited about.
Here's what I would love to build and see. And if somebody already has it, please reach out to me. I'd be willing to pay some money for this. But
Oh, you're excited, whatever this is.
I I think Claude Cowork can do that. Claude's got like 3 different variations now. The regular Claude, Cowork, and Code. I think Claude Cowork can do this to some extent, but I I really think we're at a point that there is using AI, we'd be able to build out kind of like a human operating system. And what I mean by a human operating system is how to operate our day-to-day lives efficiently. Um, Not forgetting what our schedule is, optimizing for I have to record a podcast with Savannah today, so this is how I need to prepare my day. Um, all of that kind of stuff. I think we're getting to that point that that's not too far off, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that. Uh, because for someone like me and my wife, as a family, um, with kids, young kids, we have so many responsibilities. We have job, we have work, we have kids, we have home, right? There's so many things to do, and I just want there to be um, an AI-driven aid, a system that I can just be like, these are all my to do in my life, and it can help me organize it and be like, all right, I'm gonna call that guy to fix the door handle for the microwave that broke, and you focus on getting this client meeting done, whereas your wife is okay to pick up your kids today from Taekwondo, right? Things like that. It could just plan things out. It will make life's hassles a lot more smoother. So that's something I'm going to probably. I think it's probably. Maybe I hope you're not disappointed by the answer. It's not directly related to go-to-market and sales, but I really feel there's an opportunity for AI to do that.
No, I love that answer. That's actually making me excited because it's almost like a personal assistant who can read your calendar and all
Yeah,
the things you have going on, and you plug it the information of what your life looks like on a day to day. It's basically having a personal assistant.
yeah,
But rather than it being an executive assistant for work, it's a life assistant.
yeah,
Who doesn't need one of those?
yeah. Everybody does, right? So bringing it back to GTM, if you were to be told that Savannah, your job right now is going to evolve, and a part of that job is going to be that you do what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, but you've got someone to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And that someone is not a human, but a set of AI agents.
Yeah.
How would you want to create them? What would they do? How do you manage agents? How do you figure out, what are you going to do with agents to help you do your day to day?
I feel like, so I already actually have a few, and I know I'm still learning how to, communicate with the bots, but I have built out in the past an email reply bot where I can feed the reply from the prospect to the bot and it'll prompt me with knowing everything about my company, my job, what we do, what I do. It'll feed back a response in relation to that email. And that saves me a lot of time. The bot is not perfect. I often have to go in there, add some personalization and corrections, but I would probably have a few. The
Okay.
first would be, like I mentioned, emails, which I kind of have a little bit of, but I would make it really strong. Because emails is one of those things, and I don't know if you find this, but emails, they eat up a lot of time. Even with AI, I find replying to emails, especially with nuanced questions about the platform or, signups, that can take time. And that's totally okay. But if I can answer 2 times the amount of emails with the help of my bot, why would I not do that? Another one I would do is scrubbing, where I get fed a new account or a new deal, and I would put it into my bot, and the bot would come back with everything I need to know about the account. And again, this would be information that I would have to feed the AI agent to understand, right? So if hiring is a signal that I'm going after, I would probably prompt the AI agent to understand that and feed that information back to me. I would also really want an objection handling bot. And what I mean by that is a bot where in real time, I'm on the phone and I get an objection that I've never received before. I quickly prompt it in and it feeds me back a really, really, really strong answer. One thing I will never give up is actually being the one to make the phone calls. I don't want
All
a
right.
bot to make the phone call for me. I don't want a bot to send out my LinkedIn messages. Those are the things that I love about my job and that make me unique and I feel like allow me to be a good sales rep is that personal touch. And I'm already very strong on the phones, but if I had a bot that would sit there and tell me, okay, Savannah, this is what you're going to say to that objection. If I had never received it before, that would make me the best rep that I could possibly be while still doing the thing that makes me good at my job and also being able to do my job with AI rather than being taken over by AI. So those are the three that I think I would want to leverage. And I actually might build out the objection handling one after this conversation because I think that that's really smart. And it's even one that it would be beneficial for enablement, right? You share it with the future team and you say, this bot was built out. You have to now communicate to it yourself, but you can answer any objections that you may have and you have to feed it all of the information about the product. That way it really knows how to answer it in a smart and strategic way.
Yeah.
Where the prospect on the other line on the phone thinks, wow, she just has all the answers, but it's actually my AI bot just telling me what to say.
Yeah.
Do you think that that would be a good use of free will with AI, or do you think that there's even better things that I could be doing?
There's one thing, one common thread that you could put in there that would make this whole plan even more awesome. Instead of you having to give the input to the AI, let the agent be autonomous for most part and give you output. So you are the human in the loop who is saying yes or no, not having to tell it do this or do that. It knows what to do, right?
Smart.
So all those agents talk to each other, starting with that scrubbing agent where it's like, I've got these accounts for Savannah to work on. So Savannah, should I work on these accounts? Yes. And they start working on the account. They build out a cadence. They say, Savannah, are you okay with this cadence? Are you okay with this messaging? Say yes, right? And they start executing on it, and somebody responds, and that's when you get a response. And the agent tells you, Savannah, I think we should send them this message. You also have the option of this message or this message. And you can be like, I like the second one. Let's go with that, right? And then when the call comes in, you can stick to your strength, which is having that conversation. I love that you're finding, this is my sweet spot. This is my power zone, and I don't want to let the agents into my power zone. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be ready for all the batting in here. So when the call comes, or when you're making the calls, you're having the conversation, instead of you telling the agent how to answer to this, the agent can listen to the conversation, which I think some tools already do for us. But listen to the conversation and gives you a prompt right there of, this is the objection, this is how you handle it.
It's very smart. Because that also would save me even more time, because it would be distracting to type out an objection as I'm actively on the phone. And that would take away from my attention to the prospect, which would not be the most efficient thing to do. But if I had to do it, I could do it. But it's very smart.
Yeah.
So to train ought to be autonomous.
Yes. Because, and this is, by the way, what you just went through. This is the common mind shift that all IC roles, all individual contributors need to start thinking about very quickly. It's already happening. In the world of coding and programming and building out tech, this has been happening, where the job of an entry-level software developer is about managing agents. And agents develop a code, and you validate it, or you press a button. Do you ever watch The Simpsons growing up?
Slightly, but I'm sure you're going to quote a certain scene that
I was just going to say,
haven't.
in Simpsons, Homer Simpson would be just sitting on a desk and pressing a button. That's kind of weird. Not to that extent, of being lazy, but it's kind of like that idea for a lot of things in your life. I mean, think about the day-to-day work that we do as salespeople. A lot of it is just doing the groundwork.
Yeah.
Right? So if that groundwork could be done autonomously, where you are just giving that thumbs up or thumbs down on if the agents are working right, that means that you are not burning yourself out doing the groundwork, and you're ready to just go out there and play the game more and more, speak with people. That's what your strength is, right? So that would be a really cool tool for that. If you're able to build that out, I think there's going to be salespeople out there who are going to pay you a good chunk of change.
Well, I'll keep you posted if I'm building it. I'll let you know how that's going. But I feel, in terms of this conversation, the one thing I would say, we can get the audience to engage with this, is at this point, whether people are scared or people love AI, there's really no avoiding it. It's here, it's present, and it is going to continue to grow and be a part of our lives. So the only option, in my opinion, is just to embrace it and to use it in a helpful way and in a way that's going to benefit us. And obviously, some things are out of our control. And if a company chooses to remove their entire SDR team because they think the AI bot is going to benefit them more, then that's their prerogative. But I think it's important that we embrace AI and use it for efficiencies.
Yeah, that's the best way to look at it. What do you hear most commonly as the concern around AI adoption? Like, where's the fear coming from?
Well, kind of how we started this whole conversation when you had asked me, are you fearful that, you may ever lose your job to AI? And I was confident with the answer no. there are a lot of people out there, and I see it not just in terms of my team, but I see it on social media. I see it on LinkedIn, conversations about AI, and not even in the sales industry, in all industries, there's conversation about AI bots taking over jobs. And I think the fear of the unknown, people not really knowing what's going to happen,
Right.
and also thinking that because the AI bot is so intelligent and understands so much, that there's a fear of, even though I have these degrees, the AI bot still knows more than me, and that's valuable to the company. That's where I think the fear comes
Mm.
from, is how smart the bot can be.
Yeah.
But again, and I think this is in all jobs, there's something about that human aspect that the AI agent, as of right now, cannot compete with. And maybe in 25 years from now, they will be matching the humans perfectly in that sense. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime
25 years
soon.
is a very long time horizon.
I'm trying to
Be
be
optimistic.
exactly, exactly. I realize 25 years is a very long time. And we may have full on robots by then, but
Were
I'm
you
just,
born 25 years ago, Savannah?
no.
No.
And if I talk about this, it's going to upset some of our viewers. I'm not going to name names, but I was not. No. And I'm sure from now to 25 years ago, things have changed drastically. And from now until 25 years later, things are going to change. But I don't think people should fear AI. I think they should embrace it.
Mhm.
And that's kind of the whole point of this conversation,
Yeah.
is use it to our benefit and embrace the automation, because it's going to help us in the end of the day. Do you
Yeah.
agree with that, or are you on a totally different page?
I agree with that. But I would also like to buy a big giant farm and just go off the grid. But that's not going to happen, let's be honest. Uh, but no, I totally agree with that. We need to lean in, we need to adopt it. We don't need to be afraid of it. It's just like any other tool. It's
Hmm.
going to, the big difference between this and any other tool is that it has the capability to really multiply the impact that it can
Yeah.
do, right? All the other tools were giving us marginal gains. This is giving us significantly incremental gains. Like there was like the
Yeah.
win is many folds higher than what other tools have given us. So now the idea is that um, if you know that there is a big giant Ferrari in front of you that can go to like 300 miles an hour, and you're on the autobahn, you just want to learn how to make the best of it and ride it and enjoy it, right? So that's what I'd say. I really like your way of looking at it, which is let's embrace it, let's figure out how we can use it, and let's continue to evolve with it. There's going to be a lot of learnings, and there are already in the last 3 years
Mhm.
um, that we've started adopting AI into the workplace. There have been so many learning, right? We went through a learning together, and that was huge actually. And there will continue to be a lot of learnings for everybody. Um, I talked to someone earlier today who told me about a lawyer who would use some AI resources to go into court and make some arguments about a case, only to realize that the AI had hallucinated and given him false information about case material for a case that never happened.
Uh-oh.
So there was no precedence for some of the stuff he was talking about. The AI just made up a case that somebody versus somebody said this, and in the case where somebody versus somebody, this was what was covered and wasn't true.
That lawyer story also gives me an example, and it's crazy to think about. And again, this is not related to GTM, but just in terms of the growth of AI. I did high school and AI did not exist. My entirety of schooling, even through university, it existed, but it wasn't super present at all, actually. Like, I didn't use it as a resource ever for any of my papers or tests. And now I'll hear my younger siblings talk about, oh, when I write an essay, it has to go through
Mm-hmm.
this back scan to make sure that it's not been AI written. And if it has, or the teacher deems that it's been written using AI, it'll be an automatic fail. And it's just a world that I've never lived in. And it's so different because I've heard my brother say before where a teacher has failed students because she thinks it's been written with AI and the student claims that it wasn't written with AI. And it's this battle between what's real and what's not. And it's so hard to tell. And it's just crazy to think that people use it. Like you mentioned, the lawyer used it to help him compete in a case and the information was wrong. And people use it in school to help them as a resource rather than going to read 10 different books. They can ask it to prompt some articles for them. And it's just, things have changed so much, even in such a short amount of time, because I was only at university 3 years ago. And 3 years ago, I didn't use AI to help me write papers. So it's very interesting how fast things can change.
Okay, Savannah, rapid fire before we wrap up. AI in sales, overhyped, underhyped, or exactly right?
Ooh, I'm going to go exactly right. If it's rapid fire and I don't have time to think about it, I'm going to say it's exactly right.
I would say it's overhyped for what people are trying to sell, but it's underhyped for what it could actually do.
Okay.
Right?
I agree.
That's my view on it. The one skill AI will never replace.
Humans.
Humans? How?
Just being human.
Just being human?
Human emotion.
Okay.
And building trust. I don't think AI will ever be able to compete the way a human can build
All right.
trust.
That's fair. Yeah, I would agree. I would say the ability to just randomly crack a joke in the middle of something.
And if AI does it, it doesn't hit the same.
No, it doesn't. You're like, yeah, bad joke.
Yeah, that
Okay.
time.
2027 bold prediction. What's it going to be like with AI? What is something you would see? Would it be more of the same? Would there be like a monumental shift?
I think it's going to be, for the most part, the same, but kind of like what we talked about earlier, where you don't really need to feed it information. It's been trained so well that it's a yes or a no. I think that's how it's going to be. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's going to be, I wouldn't say a big shift, but still a shift that entry level roles will look very different. Everybody will need to have some kind of a management skill, whether it's managing tools or managing humans. So the job market's already looking different. It's going to start looking very different with the skill set they need by the time we get to next year. And I've said this to a few people already. The people who graduated in the last 2 years, they are the worst. They're in the worst spot because they've come out from schools knowing skills that may not be as relevant in the market now. So they have it tough. So if you have any brothers, sisters, sibling, friends who are just graduating from university, tell them, please work your way into AI, figure out how to adopt it, right? Last rapid fire, a tool that you're using right now that's changed the way you work.
Oh, well, is ChatGPT an okay answer? Because I use ChatGPT every day and I use it not only for work, but for all aspects of life and any questions I may have, research on what's the best skincare product for this type of skin. I use it for everything. So I'm going to go ChatGPT.
Nice.
What about you?
Notebook.
Claude.
Notebook LM and Claude. Yeah, Claude. I'm newer to Claude. I tried Claude back in the day, but then I stopped using it. But in the last month, again, it's picked up and it's become so awesome. But I've been using Notebook LM quite a bit, and man, that thing's a machine. It's fantastic. So I've been really enjoying how Notebook LM has evolved. But yeah, that's really changed the way I do work and even the way I work with some of my clients. So amazing things over there. All right, so looks like we're at the end of it for today with one grand conclusion, which is that AI is not something to fear.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So lean into AI. Take Savannah's message to heart on that one. And then Savannah, what's the big news for next time around?
Big news, big news. Excited to announce it. We have an extremely exciting special guest on next episode. Are we going to tell them or are we going to keep that a surprise?
Let's keep it for now. we'll share more. But yeah,
Stay tuned for that, and we're gonna keep our lips sealed, but stay tuned.
awesome. We're looking forward to having a guest. We're looking forward to getting your feedback on this episode, and it's been another awesome session of recording the Bantercast with you, Savannah.
It's been fun, and I will see you next week.
All right, take it easy.